Hi there, and welcome to a new edition of Parto Sereno's Poetic Journeys for Kids. Today, though, we are going to write a poem that is for older kids, which will include us adult kids. I hope many of you. This is partly by popular demand. I've had many people asking if we could have some poems for the older kids too. So, this is for anybody who's in middle school through high school into the highest senior levels we get, including me. I actually did this poem today, so I'm going to share it with you in a minute. So, our poem today is a response. It's a response to what's going on around us in this utterly strange and sometimes I feel sacred time where we're all alone with our families, perhaps not, and that we are slower, we are quieter, and we're maybe able to hear things. Now, we might not know exactly what, but a poem is actually a place to help us discover what might be there for us to hear on the inside. So that's what this is going to be, kind of a newscast from your deepest self. And the form it's going to take is instructions. So this is a borrowed form. Poets, often we play with language in whatever way we find it. And so there are poems that imitate, that use the form of a dictionary. And we might define loneliness, which some of us might be feeling, instead of like, oh, a yucky feeling that you don't like when you're alone. Instead, it might be loneliness is a small brown bird that just appeared on the bird feeder. I mean, it makes sense in some way, but not here, right? So that's where poetry takes us. Today, we are going to use the form of instructions. And so we're going to write instructions to ourselves, especially, first of all, to ourselves. And what that means is we're going to listen, but we're going to imitate the way instructions are, the way they are worded. We're going to pretend, which we have to do in almost every poem anyway, we're going to pretend that we're an expert in the thing we don't know about and wished we did. I hope that makes sense, because that's what I'm going to do. I did write a poem like that this morning. I sat watching the birds at the feeder and wrote this poem. And it's an instruction about what's been difficult for me in these days. And that is the uncertainty. We don't know where this goes, how long it takes, who it touches, how it touches us, each of us, who it's touching right now. And so uncertainty has been at my breakfast table and my dinner table. And I decided to get to know her better. And this is my poem that then I wrote. How to befriend uncertainty. Come, sit a while in the seat by the window, near the birds who have shaken off their dreams and opened themselves to this never to be again day. Today we won't be asked to bumble along the beaten byways, for uncertainty has come. She is our unexpected house guest. Put on the water, set out the homemade jam. Uncertainty will listen with us as our bagels pop from the toaster's dark mouth, as the tea kettle wobbles on her deep blue flame, and the coffee grounds weep their pungent, bittersweet sobs. The truth, of course, is that although Mystery's child has no history and no proper name, she has always been with us. If you wake in the night, you can hear her hum as she busily prepares our day. She is the one who wakes us each morning to drizzle new questions into our imagination, new stories, new colors, new light. The wind is her breath. Her body is the water we bathe in and drink. Uncertainty, with the soul of a gypsy, knows the unpaved roads to gratitude by heart. She is our barefoot dancer, come to show us a multitude of ways to bless the ground. But of certain things she knows nothing, like tomorrow. Because of this, her love knows no bounds. Come closer now. She waits, as she always does, to give us all she has, a love for each of us, as silver as tomorrow. So, you have a chance to explore something in your poem that you would like to learn about, and so you'll become its expert. And there are two main things you'll need to remember, along with I'm going to give you some very practical things. But the first two things are probably the most practical, the deepest are, the first one is, don't know where you're going ahead of time. Surprise yourself. Just wait, listen, see where it takes you. And each step will kind of surprise you if you're really listening. So that's the first one. Let yourself be surprised. The second one, very closely related, is to trust yourself, because you are the only one that can really hear the message that you need to hear. Because it does come from inside, maybe up through the feet, maybe from earth itself, I don't know. So, in order to write a good instructions poem, I've listed the things I think will help. They are the ingredients. So the first ingredient for your poem is to use some imperatives. Imperatives are sentences that are usually short and to the point, because you don't want to waste any time, like stop. That's an imperative. I didn't use that one, but I used something like that. I said, come, sit a while. There's no fancy words in there. It's just come, sit a while. I think I ended too with come close now. So it's very inviting, the imperative. You don't want to use too many of them. They're kind of rich like fudge, so just a few in the right place, like listen or stop, or you get the idea. The next one is negatives. There's actually a power, and a strange power, in using negatives in language, because actually anything we say isn't there is when we say it, right? So if I say, this poem will have no elephants in it whatsoever. This poem will not talk about those big giant creatures with flappy gray ears that blow in the wind, or how they roll in the mud and squirt through their trunks. Now, you've seen a lot of elephants right now, right? They're in the poem, but at the same time, they're not in the poem. The thing about instructions, too, is that we do need to tell people, what not to do. I mean, you're the expert. So there are certain things we shouldn't be doing. In my poem, I said, well, we're not going to bumble along the beaten byways. I like that because it had a lot of B's. It kind of bounced. We're not going to bumble along the beaten byways. So what don't we do? What shouldn't we do? That kind of thing. The next one is the if. You need ifs because that opens the door of possibility. You have to imagine what could go wrong or what could happen and what we do with that. I used one if in my poem. It was, if you wake in the night, you might hear uncertainty. You might hear her humming. The next one is to add sensory detail. An interesting idea. You would think that instructions are dry and they don't have any smells or sounds, but it's very good to have them. I had not necessity, uncertainty. Sit with us and listen to the sounds of the kitchen, smell the coffee. The last one is to surprise yourself. Know something new from your poem. Learn something new. So that's my assignment. If you write a poem you'd like to share, please send it to me. My website is www.partosereno.com. Easy to find. Just paste it into the contacts and send it along. I'm going to read them. I think the next video is going to be poems by people watching. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself and listen deep.